Hi everybody, it's November the 4th, the 5th day of the Conference of Parties 2026. Everybody's doing okay, except for everybody at the conference. I hope it's raining on you. Get this sorted out here again. So this is day 5 of the conference, climate summit, whatever you want to call it. It's like McDonald's has a climate summit, or Walmart is having a climate summit, except 200 esteemed leaders and prime ministers of countries are there to kiss the ring of Walmart and McDonald's, and 25,000 dignitaries around the world went there to kiss the rings of the great UN. Sound like Twilight Zone? Guess again, it's actually real. United Nations is just a corporation, and there are scumbags at that. I'm Dana Durnford. I'm also known as the nuclearproctologist.org. You don't like what I got to say, or you got something you'd like to add in, give us a yell at 709-589-4406. Okay, so this is day 5, and it's all about the money, baby. They want 100 million, so they got no time for anything else. Give us the money, we'll take care of climate change. That's the UN. They're just like Australia's Prime Minister. We'll cut the carbon, don't worry about it. We'll do it the Australians' way, because we're good. There is no planet B. They're counting on that, by the way. That's why nuclear power is the main item on all menus throughout this bizarre, twisted, going and getting on one knee and kissing the ring of the United Nations. I've never seen no spectacles like that in my lifetime. A few times on The Simpsons, of course, when I was in between throwing up after watching Homer work at a nuclear power plant for 30 years. Surprise, Earth is still here. Work at Fukushima plant to go on for 10,000 years. There's a lot of Homer Simpsons out there in real life at these nuclear power plants, by the way. Like 10,000 years, that's pretty optimistic. Good luck. You think that you're going to extinguish that creature way down in the bowels of the planet? Oh yeah. We'll send down the robots. It rolls out these little tiny robots at these 190 feet buildings. It's like, what the hell, man? Speaking of what the hell, that's a nuclear power site for the future, and it's surrounded by farms. All current ones are also surrounded by farms. So who is United Nations? That's a question. They're kind of an inbreed, for sure, minimum. They're incredibly self-centered and egotistic and arrogant and pompous, hubris thing creatures. They're a corporation, no different than the dollar store or whatever. Quickie Mark. They're just a corporation. Their officers are just officers. They can't arrest you or give you tickets or anything. They're part of a corporation. Calling them authorities is absurd. I can start the company up, and I can hire every single person out there who can't count to 10 and call them an authority, and you got to call them authority too. George Bush called
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
You know, like fixing climate change.
We have before us the opportunity
hi there, can I speak to
we
UN?
have before us the
Operator?
opportunity to forge.
Operator, can you get me UN on the phone? Yeah, how you gonna fix the climate change? Oh, we got ways. And $100 billion, woo, per day. They're gonna burn that, you know they are. Nuclear radiation is the most carcinogenic thing that exists, but you gotta be worried about the carbon, which makes plants grow, and the humans can't live without. You're carbon, dummy. Do you get what they're up to? Nuclear expert. Fukushima is like the worst nightmare becoming reality. At least 1,000 atomic bombs. Now, that would be true if you're talking about the taser bomb from the USSR. It was equal to 3,800 Hiroshima bombs going off at the same time. It's the same radioactive fallout, by the way. That's the gallows laugh, not laughing. So Fukushima definitely is 1,000 times that. Nuclear weapon goes off in a millionth of a second. These could burn for 10,000 years. Infinitely worse. Nuclear bomb is 5 kilograms of uranium, plutonium. These are 5 million pounds at the top of each building. It's a significant difference. An insurance person told me people from Fukushima, or Canada, United States really, may not be able to get life insurance, especially for cancer. Local official, it's better for you to leave Fukushima. The brain neurons don't regenerate. Air samples in Tokyo are 270 times more contaminated than global weapons fallout peak. Global weapons fallout peak was a nuclear war that you didn't know about. You called it testing, I think. It's the same bombs with the same radioactive fallout. It's a nuclear war. And you can trace the glaciers melting to all the insects being annihilated and all the food chain being broken 75 years ago and onwards. That nuclear testing, some of these bombs were equal to 3,800 of their bombs that they were counting in. See, Wikipedia says 200 or 2,000 nuclear weapons. So just one of them is equal to 3,800 Hiroshima bombs. And the 2,000 bombs that Wikipedia has talked about, one of them is Hiroshima. Air samples in Tokyo, 270 times. And they're just talking cesium. These things are loaded with radiation isotopes. The numbers are absurd. Say, for instance, a liter of water could easily have, and does, say 20 million atoms of iodine-131. There would be 10 times more iodine-132, 30 times more iodine-133, 31 times more iodine-129 per liter falling on the country. We got the studies showing that to be true, by the way. And iodine-131 or 132, 133 are 9 times more effective at ionizing and radiating you, insects, birds, animals, mammals, and all the species. Thyroid glands, 9 times more effective than the iodine-131. Oh, by the way, the iodine-131 is brutally effective, just so you know. Hope you feel better. Radioactive xenon-133 in Washington was 450,000 times above detection levels, and it persisted for weeks. You're supposed to be in your shelter even today, by the way. Xenon will burn a hole through your lungs and the bird's lungs and the animal's lungs and kids' lungs and sequester in the bone where they'll mutate the stem cells in your pelvis. Oh, it all goes south after that. 400, and that's true for all creatures. See, it's not just humans. I know how the average ignorant person is kind of arrogant because they don't appreciate there's 8 million species and you're the steward. I'm tired of being the steward. It's your turn. And so it looks like that. 468 hours, bottom right-hand corner. That's the Pacific. There's America and Canada, and there's the Atlantic behind me. There's a lot of these models. That's 19 days later. 1, 2, 3, 19 days. Sustained. Oh, by the way, it's still melting down. You might want to fix that, you know, because you're going to run out of homeless and destitute pretty soon. The devastating cause behind mass seal deaths revealed, and it's not a meteorite strike at all. Western Cape authorities revealed it's aware of the reports regarding seals being found dead on the west coast, not from climate change. I repeat, not from climate change. Malnutrition is the main cause for thousands of dead Cape fur seals. That's also called emaciated, by the way. You know, where there's no fish at all, not even small ones. There's no crabs and no oysters, and there's no mussels, and there's no scallops, and there's no fishies. There's nothing. They got nothing there to eat. It's all gone. It's all gone. It's all gone. Millions of species now because of Fukushima nuclear meltdown. But worry about the carbon. Worry about coal. Give us more nuclear to make this even worse again. That's what they're doing out there at the conference of parties. We'll get into a lot of those headlines pretty quick. Thousands of thin. They're down to about 25% of their normal body weight. How can you be so cruel to call them thin? How can you be so heartless to use that word? I'm confused how that actually works. It's not thin. They're starving and emaciated. They have no body fat, no muscle mass left because they ate all of that. Their bodies did. You tell me what's going on. See, overfishing implies a certain group of fish were overfished, maybe. It could happen. Even though the ocean is a moving creature, the species are always migratory. Starving fur seals lying dead or dying on the beach along the west coast. And all the years I've been doing this, I've never in my life seen so many starving animals. Thousands. Not 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000, but thousands of emaciated Cape fur seals, including premature pups, sub-adult females, washed up dead since the first reports of higher than normal mortalities. And we've done multiple expeditions, and I produced a video just 2 videos back of recent mass die-offs around the planet that everything points to Fukushima. Real cheery video, make you smile. Nutritional deficiencies in pregnant Cape fur seals. Nutritional deficiencies in pregnant. My goodness, whoever wrote that should be ashamed of themselves. They're emaciated. They're aborting the babies 2 months early. Starvation and low body fat. Make up your mind, right? Nutritional deficiencies, and then on the other side of your mouth, starvation and low body fat. There's a big difference between starvation and no body fat. The nutritional deficiencies basically is implying that you're not getting enough vitamin C, or you're not, you know what I'm saying? It's not like you're not getting any vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F's, and G, H, I, J, K's, L, M, la, la, Lees. Starvation and low body fat. Why is there no... I don't know. Why is there no food? Because it'd be something to do with the big plumes. The big plumes, boss. They kill the food chain. I don't know. Fukushima radioactive fallout, by the way, is global warming. Pulsing energy every second at the speed of light. That's why nuclear is so wicked. And for energy, it's pulsing energy at the speed of light. Well, almost the speed of light. You know how much energy it takes to make something move at the speed of light, and you think there's no heat? We're not talking about fusion, we're talking about fission. Fission's heat. Splitting the atoms, but what does that mean? Well, when they split, now there's two of them pulsing energy every second, but they keep doing it, and they keep growing, and now there's trillions pulsing every second. Now there's hundreds of trillions of billions of trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and billions and billions and billions released into the environment in 75 years. And they're just getting started. The more fuel you produce, the more they split the atom. The more there is to split the atom, and everything is splitting the atom, and everything is stored outdoors, and everything has no containment, because if that stuff builds up and you introduce oxygen, it'll detonate. So you have to vent it. That's why all the nuclear power plants are surrounded by farms. Because they love you so much. They just love you. I want to take good care of you. But increasingly vocal and powerful proponents, some climate scientists, environmental experts, that's it. That's all they got is climate scientists. They got nothing else, and it's just one genre. There's one little genre. Underneath it is climate scientists. There's no other specialties. It's just climate scientists because it's new. And it was created for pro-nuclear to get a degree so they can get out there, call them an expert, a climate expert. And their narrative is, oh, your laces are broken. Well, I think we need another nuclear power plant here. We can't have broken laces. No matter what it is, their solution is nuclear power plant. They literally had a brown nose in college. Some climate scientists, environmental humans, experts among them, argued that nuclear power is the world's best hope of keeping climate change under control. This is radioactive fallout. Oil don't do that. Gas don't do that. Coal don't do that. Carbon don't pulse energy every second. Gonna get you. But radiation is. Tell your little kids when they're going to bed, careful, because carbon's going to get you. And, Mommy, what's it going to do? It's going to pulse energy every second at you and kill you. Yeah, kid will get his ass in gear and right away, right? But nuclear accidents are scary and exceedingly rare. Every nuclear power plant is a nuclear accident all day, every day. Hemorrhaging radiation from the fuel pools. It's hemorrhaging. Hemorrhaging. Hang on there. I'll be right with you. I'll be with you. Let me fix that. Okay, that's fixed. I know I was missing something. I was missing the shiny Geiger counter up in the top right-hand corner. That's what each little atom that's falling, that's what it's doing, right? And it does that every second, over and over and over for millions of years. And when you've got thousands, that's why my Geiger counter is going 325 counts per minute when it should only be, at best, from weapons fallout peak around 30. The scale of human civilization is trying to do over the next 30 years to fight climate change is staggering, says Matt Bowen of the Columbia University Center for Goblin Energy Policies. It'll be much more daunting if we exclude nuclear power plants. Or even more daunting if we decide to shut down nuclear power plants altogether. No, I want my nuclear power plants. That's what they're like, right? I swear. I have no reason to lie to you. I'm nothing to gain by lying to you. Many governments are pushing to enshrine nuclear energy into climate plans. You thought it was a conference of parties. No. This is a big nuke orgy to bring you in and brainwash you, spit you out going, we need nuke. Kill coal, get nuke. By the way, all nuclear power plants need 2 coal, oil, or gas plants to work. Many governments are pushing to enshrine nuclear-tired energy in bizarre climate plans being hashed out at the conference. You call that a conference? In Glasgow, known as the Conference of Parties. Why would they use the word COP? What kind of twisted, sadistic people said, we're the top of the list, baby. We can call it anything we want. The police are like, wow, they're bigger cops than us. They're cops. They're like McDonald's. They're just a company. They got no sovereignty over your country, your constitutions, your Magna Cartas, your Bill of Rights. The European Union. The European Union, meanwhile, is debating whether to label nuclear energy as officially green. A decision will steer billions of euros of investments for years to come. Of course, that we know that. And the steady standard that other economies can follow. Oh my God, no, tell me it's What about all that waste, Dana? That's a great question. It's all splitting the atom, releasing it into the environment. It always looks like this no matter where you to now. Can't see it or smell it or taste it or hear it or touch it or feel it or pick it up and throw rocks at it. But it's pulsing energy at the speed of light heating your planet up. I gotta fix that. Bear with me. Stay tuned. What is that, I wonder? Oh, what about all the waste, Dana? Yeah, it's still splitting the atom, I told you. Even Japan is promoting nuclear energy. Well, like, in 12 months last year, we brought on the equivalent in renewables of 300 nuclear power plants. And so there's 440 on the planet, 414 working. That took 75 years. You really think that it can touch something that can produce the equivalent of it? 300 of them big power plants each year is a piece of cake because it already proved it. That's an absurd amount of energy, by the way. 261 gigawatts versus nuclear last year. This is in 12 months of renewables, but last year nuclear only produced 0.4 gigawatts. Renewables was 261. That's like 300 nuclear power plants hammering away. Nowhere in the world is as reliant on nuclear reactors as scumbag France, which is at the forefront of the scumbag pro-nuclear push at the European and global level, and it's among leading players in the nuclear waste industry. There is no nuclear recycling which is what Sellafield does, and La Hague in France, reprocessing material from around the world. So they're taking, now, the stuff that's left over, they have to ship back to the country that gave it to them. And what happens is you make what's known as mixed oxide fuel out of it. It's illegal in Canada, United States, because you're going to release hot particles from the reactor's fuel for thousands of years. When you put that in the fuel pool for thousands of years, it's going to be hemorrhaging in Castor, wherever. It's going to have to be vented. The wickedest types of isotopes. So a normal nuclear meltdown, the isotopes are brutal on the human, animal, everything that splits the cells. Mixed oxide fuel emissions are 2 billion times worse than the original nuclear meltdown. It's very dangerous for a very long time and has to be stopped at all costs. So I kind of like France because the protesters in France, they don't mess around.
The clashes were violent and widespread.
Yeah,
Hundreds of police and anti-nuclear protesters chased each other through the fields and woodland near Vallon.
Get it on!
Roadblocks were set up to try to prevent more protesters converging on the area, but at one point a group managed to block a section of the railway line.
So,
fierce protests are...
So when you're faced with a string of cops like that, what's the right thing to do? You need fire hoses with those big brass spigots, and that'll go right over their shields and crack their friggin' helmets open and everything underneath it like a big egg. They won't be so ready to come after you the next time. We used to like to put all the little weaklings out front, and when the thugs come, they got out of the way, and we had all the loggers with the baseball bats waiting for them. Should see him run, baby. Woo! Bring it to him. So the World War I battlefield of Verdun. Trucks bearing radioactive. They're talking about France. France, and stuff waste into cement or steel cylinders and stack it in robotic cranes in warehouses that are filled with gravel and sealed with mere concrete. Nuclear accidents are scary but exceedingly rare, while pollution from coal and other fossil fuels causes death and illnesses every day. But nuclear is hemorrhaging radiation forever. So what they're trying to do is claim that, I got a really easy way to explain this, by the way. It'll take a second. There we go. So it's coal, oil, and gas emissions. Let's think about them for 1 second. So that's the Pacific it's crossing, then it's North America, then it's the Atlantic Ocean. Now it's covering Europe. Now it's got the whole planet. It takes about 3 weeks, and the whole planet is a continuous plume of radiation. Pulsing energy every second now for thousands of years. Pulsing energy at the speed of light. And they hit each other when there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them. They hit each other and they change direction. It's a braking effect. Almost at the speed of light, they're hitting each other, gammas and alphas and betas and neutrons, and then they change direction because it's unnatural. These are man-made. That creates, besides the brutal gamma X-rays and betas and neutrons, now it creates an X-ray effect, which is a staggering amount of energy we're talking about, and it sterilizes the ground of the continents in increments over a decade or two. And so there's everything, you can get insects, but they won't reproduce, right? It works this way. So the first year, instead of having 100 eggs after being radiated, the insect species will only have 60 eggs. And then the following year, because of erosion from wind and rain and snow and everything else, that moves it around permanently. Now it's sucked up by all the plants and everything. That's why spiders can't live on the grass and branches and bushes anymore. You see them on your buildings, but you rarely see them in nature anymore. It's because of this X-ray effect sterilizes all the species, and each year it gets a little worse. So the next year, instead of 60 babies for a species, insects, it only had 50. The year after, it only had 40. The year after, it only had 30. The year after, it had none. That species is gone, then this species is gone. And then some species are what they call feeder species, like mosquitoes feed frogs and fish and dragonflies and birds, etc., right? And so if you start losing all these species, you have lots of mosquitoes, and everybody hates mosquitoes, right? Because now there's no species to keep them in check, and they're the proliferators, and they'll slowly wean down till having no babies. And so this is what we got done to the planet. It's pulsing energy every second. They're trying to blame carbon. Carbon doesn't create plumes like that. Gas doesn't produce, emissions don't produce plumes like that. Oil and coal emissions don't produce problems like that. But coal is cheap, see? And they don't want coal around because coal is cheap, it's abundant, and we have lots of it on the planet. But nuclear is the only one that covers the planet in a continuous plume. There's nowhere I can go on the planet with the Geiger counter and it won't be screaming. Because you can pulse 50 feet, these little atoms. You put 2 million atoms on the head of a needle, you can't see it. Nuclear accidents, they claimed, are scary but exceedingly rare, while pollution from coal and other fossil fuels causes deaths and illnesses every day. Coal, oil, and gas don't cause emissions like this. The only thing that, you're already acclimated to coal, oil, and gas through genetic superior selection. You're also acclimated to volcanoes causing heavy particulates and forest fires causing heavy particulates in the air. That's normal. You're genetically created for that because that's your history for thousands of years, right? That stuff existed, the emissions of it. But nuclear is man-made. We don't have any autoimmune deficient or trigger for it. And so the body attacks it relentlessly. Of all species, your body's attack it with white blood cells. That displaces the red blood cells, which carries oxygen and nutrition throughout your body. You're more susceptible to pathogens and viruses and illnesses and diseases long before cancer manifests. There's 1,800 things can kill you, right? There's heart problems, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. There's Alzheimer's and dementia and autism. If you start doing exams in 15 miles around a nuclear power plant, you would see an absurd increase of heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. There's 1,800 illnesses. So if you've done it, but they're only looking for cancer because they know they would find these abnormalities of congenital malformations and everything else. Nuclear accidents are scary. It's not just nuclear accidents. They've been dumping it forever. They're hemorrhaging it into the oceans. All the fuel pools are splitting the atoms, hemorrhaging it into the communities. And most insidiously, revoltingly, and hideously, and odiously, almost every single nuclear power plant is surrounded by friggin' farms. You think that's an accident? Right up tight to the reactors, farms. So, that's some serious, incredible sickness to do that a single time. But to all of them? So you eat it and you get poisoned. Nuclear accidents are scary, said scumbag, piece of shit lawyer. France is laying the groundwork for a permanent deep earth repository beneath corn and wheat fields. You're like, no, that's a coincidence. You showed the pictures that time of the farms. No, it's not true. Look. They're going to put, France is putting its nuclear, like high-level nuclear waste in the earth where it'll eventually melt down and burn off that part of the planet, underneath a corn and wheat field. You know, farmland. In order to, and now it takes probably 60, 70 years to package it all down into those repository. Because that's the point of why they're doing it this way. Oh, it takes us 20 years to find a spot because nobody wants it in their back garden. You got the rest of the countries vacant. No, we're not putting it out there. There ain't nobody out there. There's no farmland out there. You think this is an accident that all nuclear power plants are surrounded by farmlands? No, no, no. They love you so much. France is laying the groundwork for a permanent deep earth repository beneath corn and wheat fields. Hey, Sellafield is a nuclear meltdown in the United Kingdom. They're still reprocessing fuel there on top of that. And this is Sellafield surrounded by farmland. As far as you can see in both directions, by the way. You tell me that's not sadistic. There's a nuclear meltdown hemorrhaging 8 million liters a day into the ocean, to the Atlantic. Since the 50s. From a mixed oxide fuel meltdown. From a reprocessing facility melting down. So they created another one on site of the ongoing nuclear meltdown. They blamed the cancer clusters in children on common flu, by the way. They love you so much. 29 billion cost proposed repository is already built into budgeting by the French utilities, EDF. They're actual monsters. Used to be Areva. They went bankrupt, right? All around your street signs are replaced with graffiti reading, "Nuclear is over." Because the French nuclear activists are awesome, man. They go to war. They wear hockey helmets and shoulder pads, and they got hockey gloves on. They're bringing sticks to go to war with. An activist camp out at the town's main intersection. Get in their faces. Make it an issue. Greenpeace, scum, degenerate, coward, Greenpeace. Cowards. I'll show you why I'm saying cowards. Come on, give me a second. Here we go. See, if I had a radio show, nobody would believe anything I said, right? Because it's just too surreal. Oh, hang on. That's not it. So Greenpeace, despite the fact that I tweeted this at them at least 25 times, won't repeat the process. So do you think the building to the left is 100 feet above the building to the right? Because it's not. So Greenpeace, if Greenpeace had tweeted out that, hey, that's a fake building, this is the real one. Or if Arnie Gunnarsson had tweeted out, hey, that's the fake reactor 3, this is the real one, nuclear wouldn't actually be alive today. Yeah? It'd be dead right now as we speak. But Greenpeace too much of a coward to do the moral and ethical thing. Absurd coward Greenpeace turned out to be. So they're controlled opposition. They're not cowards. They're lobbyists. They're controlled opposition. They've been scooped up just like Popular Mechanics was, Time magazine was, and many, many other sites were scooped up by the murder machine and then weaponized against the human population on this planet and all species. Do you think those 4 journalists, I say that without throwing up in the garbage bag, are pretending they're on top of Reactor 4? If Greenpeace had tweeted that out, take a screen capture and tweet it to Greenpeace and say, hey, tell the world which reactor is real, you piece of shit. We can end nuclear's pipe dream right now. Boom. Nuclear waste needs to be dealt with. No, nuclear waste dealt with. See, nobody bothers telling you what the problem is. The problem is it's still splitting the atom into the environment with no containment at an absurd rate. Why it's dangerous for hundreds of thousands of years. Why it's volatile. Why they spend the big dollars on just a few pounds. People are beginning to understand the consequences of not going nuclear. Professor of atmospheric science at MIT, scumbag, amid a growing awareness of the rise of the climate. MIT has been promoting nuclear for 90 years. For 90 years. Hang on. They're just gross people, right? MIT. And UC Berkeley is the other one. So anyway, long story short, I'm not going to go through all of that particular story because it never stops. We'll be here all night trying to get through that story. So many lies. Why tell so many lies? But you can see how the lies are structured, right? It's like a dream. We'll start up the reactor and you can watch Homer Simpson for 30 years. And everything will be funny and okay. It's still splitting the atom. All the nuclear power plants on the planet, they're fuel pools, 440 of them. The more fuel you put there, the more atoms are coming out every day. They're boiling off 120,000 liters each day. Each liter is trillions of atoms because the fuel rods are still, splitting the atom. It's blast through the past, I guess. China climate goal hinges on a $440 billion nuclear buildout. This is laughable. We talked about this a couple of years ago, right? They don't have the precious resources, and they don't actually have the manpower or the skill, right? It's tangled up in other projects that are like how long. If you look at China realistically, at how long it takes, unless they found a magic machine, unless they built a great big 100,000 square foot, those machines you put pieces in, they just copy them out. Even then you couldn't do it. Nuclear power once seemed like the world's best hope for a carbon neutral future. Well, it's not carbon neutral. Come on, man, it's not carbon neutral. This stuff is hardcore carbon to produce. Everything on the site, these are incredibly big sites. Everything on the site is carbon intensive. Everything has to be the best. All the pipes are the best of the best. All the wiring, hundreds of thousands of miles of wiring is the best of the best. All the covering on the wirings, that plastic is the best of the best. The doorknobs in the buildings, for God's sakes, have got to be a certain standard and inspected when they're made by the nuclear industry. 200 gigawatts by 2035. Last year, in 12 months, they had 261 gigawatts for renewables. That's pretty darn good. And at least that's what they're telling me. And if you used compressed air, that didn't work. If you used pumped hydro and compressed air, so you can have water. There's 500,000 places worldwide for storage, excess energy. You just pump water up a hill. Nuclear scientists are like, how are we going to do that? That's a hill, Dana. You're not being realistic. I said, I know. Hear me out, though, first. And you can take extra energy and compress air and store it that way. $54 million project. It worked. Piece of cake. all the technologies, obsolete technologies. Really, that's amazing. And so you can have pumped hydro, because we actually got things on this planet can pump water up a hill. I know, right? And compressed air technology to store your energy. Lake's radioactive concentration predicted for 10,000 days after Fukushima. So they claim after 10,000 days, the radiation levels of the lake will decrease quite a bit. But the problem was the radioactive fallout was worldwide. It covered the whole planet with a brutal and still ongoing amount of radiation. He's a piece of shit. I just wanted to make sure he didn't get away with it. What Conference of Parties 26 means for South Africa? It means nothing. It means you're going to rob you blind. They're going to push nuclear down your throat in your farm fields. The only thing can save you in your country now is you don't have any farm fields. The nuclear won't go there. As a signatory to the Paris Agreement. What are you trying to say? Are you proud of that or something? The Paris, like France, has a civil war. Never mind. In Niger, for over 60 years, they destroyed everybody's life, every family, every child. They got rid of the government. They gave fractions on competing countries weapons to come in and beat the shit out of you. Then they went in and took over your uranium, and for 60 years they got cheap friggin' uranium. They love you so much. You're so good. Y'all me, suckers. Although nuclear power generation has fallen out of favor globally, no, it beat the shit out of the planet. Stupid. It was a big friggin' bully. Never fell out of favor. It's this piece of shit scumbag industry. Nothing but cowards, monsters working for it. So you got these gullible, wonderful, gullible people down at Conference of Parties 26 talking about coal instead of saying, hey, we better kill this creature known as nuclear and kill it now. It's going to wipe out the entire friggin' planet. Pensioners, this is disgusting. They're taking the United Kingdom's pensions and investing it into new nuclear power plants. Yeah, wrap your mind around that. That's what they done here in Canada when Fukushima happened, by the way, and they're still doing it. Got away with it. Look at her. She's just one little snap away from eating your child in a fit of anger because you didn't lick her boots when she walked past. Speaking at Conference of Parties 26 in scumbag, stupid Glasgow with Walmart or McDonald's. Oh, no, yeah, United Nations. That's that company, yeah. Have no sovereignty over any country, and they're just a bunch of scumbags, arrogant, pompous pricks trying to take over the planet. Oh, we'll solve the climate change for you. Yeah, give us a couple of $100 million every single year. We'll get right on it. We'll write a report in about 12 years. Let you know how it worked out. Give us the money, though. What are you giving these scumbags money for? In fact, I think McDonald's started them up, right? UN? Isn't that a subsidiary of McDonald's? Editorial, let's face it. The Conference of Parties 26 is a friggin' farce. It's a farce. Private jet carbon footprint, and the world leaders taking them to COP to give United Nations $100 million 26. It's a big party down there, right? That's all it is. Like, you're putting 25,000 dignitaries and bring all these people in because you got money to throw away? No. Because you want those countries to give you $1 billion each year, 200 of them. And you got all the dignitaries from each country. These planes fly at high altitude. They're not very efficient on their fuel, and they release the particles, heavy particles, in the upper, way 40,000 feet up atmospheres. Do you got any, like that's your cars, all your cars on the planet, emissions, are equal to 15 container ships. There's 96,000 container ships on the ocean, by the way. Have a nice day. Hey, it's all good though. Leo DiCaprio got his pictures taken. Why does he look like he's always half drunk, I wonder? I'm sure he's not. Conference of Parties 26 won't solve anything, but scams exist. We don't know what to believe about climate change. We're even more adrift over solutions. Well, get rid of nuclear. Climate change will disappear. There seems to be less frightening war over 1 million years or something, right? Because we got so much into the environment. It's still melting down. We're supposed to stop it. At some point, in the near future, hopefully, the world will go and try to stop Fukushima. It'd be a perfect time to have Nuremberg trials for UN at the same time. There seems to be less fighting over whether or not the planet is showing symptoms related to a warming trend. No, it's a die-off from radiation. Everything's getting leukemia. All the species are dying of leukemias. 34, because they're consuming so much, they don't have any red blood cells anymore. And so now their immune system is completely open to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign. 34 arrests after absolute gridlock caused by... See, they don't get into the paper unless they glue themselves to shit, right? And their crime, they want to insulate all the homes in the United Kingdom. Criminals. They're mad, I tell you. It's mad. You won't need as much energy if he does that. What's wrong with Joe? The only thing that heats up a planet is radiation, pulsing energy every second. That's what heats the Earth up. All the uranium, thorium that's deep embedded in the Earth from the stardust, pulsing energy every second, created the core to spin and gave us a magnetic field, gave us an atmosphere, etc., etc., gave us the environment to create an atmosphere, rather, that we can't exist without. But nuclear, from a nuclear reactor, this is anthropogenic, man-made. It doesn't. The sun doesn't make these elements. We call them man-made because they're man-made. And everything on this planet is allergic to it, particularly pollinators. Insulate Britain blocked Parliament Square in central London, day 4 live. Bless their hearts, right? Gotta like them. Don't mess with the kids here, I tell you what. I'm lost. I don't want to be lost. So they got to glue themselves in order to... That's the traditional way. And if you don't do that, you're never going to... No one will ever know you exist. So I was out there getting arrested, and in the news... That's how you get in the newspaper, right? You got to go get arrested, get beat up a bit, get a criminal record. The judge growl at you a few times. And you're an activist. Congratulations. Conference of Parties 26, $18 billion pledge to end cold. What about nuclear? By the way, cold don't make plumes that heats the planet up. Cold doesn't pulse energy every second for millions of years, but nuclear does. That's a nuclear fallout from Japan's multiple reactors. Hello? Hello? Is there anybody home? Hello? Wake up. We are in real trouble. COP26, carbon offsetting, a new form of colonialism, says indigenous leaders. 190 countries, organizations to quit coal. I've been trying to patch and get cold turkey, and I still can't give it up. Well, what this does, this is radioactive fallout from Fukushima. This is still going on today, covering, can you see your house in this picture? Fukushima radioactive fallout is global warming. It's pulsing energy every second. And this plume is only based on, by the way, venting. It's not based on the actual meltdowns. It's not based on the inventories from each of the reactors that were running and melted down and blew up and caught fire and blew up. It's not including the inventories from the fuel pools at the top of the buildings that caught fire and blew up and caught fire. Exactly like that, too. I don't know where that came from. What the hell was that? 190 countries have got on the coal patch. And I gotta touch it again, I swear. Just gonna go to the corner shop and get some bubble gum and soap and toothpaste. U.S. is the world's second biggest emitter of carbon dioxide. It's not carbon dioxide, scum brains. It's radioactive fallout from multiple nuclear reactors that melted down in Japan in 2011, okay? It's pulsing energy every second. This is a model of Neptunian covering the whole friggin' planet, killing all the species in increments over the last decade. Glasgow road closures this weekend as 58,000 protesters called for the closing of coal plants instead of nuclear. This is an incredible win for the brainwashing crew. They're all partying tonight, I tell you what. 40 countries at McDonald's 26 promised to phase out coal. Hey, the other guy said 190. Get with the program, all right? Deteriorating Fukushima nuclear plant threatens mass extinction around the world. Coal doesn't do that. Carbon doesn't do that. Oil don't do that. Gas doesn't have those attributes. You know what does? I'll give you 10 guesses. The first 9 don't count. That's right, nuclear fallout from Japan. Oh, by the way, it's also global warming. Haha. Take that. Microsoft's Brad Smith outlined sustainability plans. They're huge. They're like a whole country. Almost the entire ground level of the northern hemisphere is covered in radioactive fission products after Fukushima. In your face. Suck it up, scum. Glasgow summit co-signing coal to history. But not nuclear. No, we like nuclear. Nuclear, awesome. We want more nuclear. We kill everything on planet now. Yummy, yummy. Washington, this is a study, 450,000 times, and you're worried about coal. Okay, I respect that. I respect that. Conference of Parties. What the frig was that? Organizers fume at key nations that are reluctant to commit suicide. Yes, we'll get them to commit suicide. Nuclear is just waiting right around the corner. Biden then wagged his finger sternly at China. Ooh, I'm so scared of you. China don't give a fuck about you, okay? I think it's been a big mistake, quite frankly, for China with respect to China not showing up. Yeah, you showed up with 80 cars, 3 jets full of nuclear prostitutes. Unprecedented spike of 1,500 atoms of the radioactive sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs, a cubic meter in California. Wow. You know what that means? That's like, oh crap, these are hot particles. Sources say about 1,000 kinds of radioactive materials are released from the reactors. So when you see radioactive sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs, it's going to be saturated with uranium, plutonium, and americium, and neptunium, strontium, and curium. By the way, curium is the biggest byproduct of the radiated fuel rods. Not iodine, not cesium. They're nasty too, don't get me wrong. But curium, you need lead shielding 20 times thicker for the curium than you do for plutonium, which is named after the devil. Conference of Parties, 26 states should agree to cut military emissions. We've only been crying for that for decades. Should agree to cut military emissions. Militaries produce more pollution each than a couple of countries, right? They're just absurd resource gobblers. Nuclear engineer. I agree Fukushima can be an extinction event. You know why he's saying that? Because he's a nuclear engineer. It's not carbon, it's not gas, it's not oil, not coal. Okay, all right, it's not coal. It's radioactive fallout. It's heating the planet up. If you don't stop what's going on, there is no planet. It's do or die. Extinction Rebellion protests at 3 counties' showgrounds. Got a little zombie dog in there. That's a pretty little zombie dog. Some cows for you. Thank goodness somebody was thinking about you. So, this is a study to your left and a model to your right. It's coming out of Japan. It's crossing the Pacific Ocean. It's hitting North America. And now covering Alaska, North America, Canada, Iceland, Greenland, Europe, France, Turkey, Spain. And one sample from Canadian researchers in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, don't ask me, was 220 million atoms per liter of iodine-129 with a 15 million year half-life. There's 10 half-lives. Like, that's absurd. Oil doesn't do this. This is pulsing energy every second for 150 million years. Oil doesn't do that. Gas doesn't do this. Coal doesn't do this. Carbon makes plants grow. Oh crap, we better sequester carbons. We don't want plants taking over the planet. You know, where all the insects like to live and mammals and like to hang out. Let's get rid of all of that. They used Agent Orange to get it all out of Vietnam. Why Conference of Parties, why the United Nations big party, 26, won't deliver it. No, because they want $100 billion. They don't give a shit. They're not going to fix the planet. Name one instance where United Nations fixed the planet. I don't see them flying the fix the planet flags out front. World Nuclear Chief praises Sellafield, England, with 8 million litres a day hemorrhaging into the ocean. Every day from Sellafields. With a nuclear processing on, this is one of the biggest sites in Europe. It's a big nuclear wasteland. Oh, and yeah, I know. That was pathetic, Dana. It's surrounded. This is a nuclear meltdown and a ongoing reprocessing mixed oxide fuel facility. And they're surrounded by farms. Doesn't that seem a bit strange to you? Doesn't that seem insane to you? Because that's insane, okay? There's no reason to do that unless you want to poison everybody that eats the food. And how many people do you think eats food from all of these farms year after year for the last 70 years? Is that not a crime? These farmers will never go broke because the biggest shops on the planet will take that food just so they can murder you from thousands of miles away. Nuclear power ships make waves in Glasgow. Now they're claiming there's 2,000 ships want nuclear power. They're lining up, it tells you. This is all fables, right? It's a very dangerous scenario. And some of the studies were saying, like there's a submarine, one submarine in particular, it's a Russian submarine, I'm not going to butcher the name. It's sunk in the Arctic. Probably scuttle it knowing these people. The reactor had a meltdown, is what really happened. They got off the ship sank with a reactor running. They produced studies recently. This happened 30 odd years ago, 40 years ago. They went out recently and done a study there where they claimed that the hull of the ship sitting on the ocean floor will not rupture for at least 1,000 years or more. There will be no releases for at least 1,000 years. This is absurd assertions. This is ludicrous assertions. Sellafield is pumping 8 million litres of radioactive discharges into the Irish Sea every day, and it's been doing it for 70 years. Proponents of nuclear power are expecting to make inroads with regulators and the general public. So they're talking about brainwashing the public a lot lately. Right? They're going to be a big push to get them to accept these reactors that don't even exist. Norway's biggest pension firm exits Raytheon, which is the military-industrial complex, Rolls-Royce, which is the military-industrial complex, because both of these military-industrial complexes are linked to nuclear weapons. Oh my God, I can't believe that. It's amazing. It was just accidental. We read it on Wikipedia. How can you take people's pensions and invest it in stuff like that? What kind of demented, twisted, sadistic system has the nuclear industry clawed its way into? U.S. government works to cocoon old nuclear reactors. Oh, this is such a heartwarming story from the nuclear industry. You pass it out to everybody on Halloween, it'll have the same effect. It'll leave them too terrified to speak again. Costs to clean up a massive nuclear weapons complex in Washington State are usually expressed in the hundreds of billions. Carpentry too cheap to meter. And involve decades of homeless and destitute being sacrificed. But one point on the Hanford nuclear reservation is progressing at a lower pace. 75 years lower pace. The federal government is moving forward with the cocooning of 8 plutonium production reactors at Hanford. They're going to bury it in cement. And just walk away, baby. Walk away. So the cost of trying to dismantle the reactors and demolish the reactors' core work could put the workers at risk. So then Fukushima, where the homeless and the destitute only fear to tread, and given paper suits, by the way. At Hanford, they have Scotty backpacks and real suits. At Fukushima nuclear meltdowns, all you get is paper suits. and rubber boots. And pick up your check if you're still alive in 2 weeks. And what they've done at Hanford is unbelievable, eh? Hanford's 585 miles in nuclear waste, 585 square miles. 585 square miles. You know, how do you reconcile that they build all the nuclear power plants in the middle of farmland and nuclear dumps in the farmlands? France is now doing a wheat and cornfield. Oh yeah, we're going to bury it all there. How long is it going to take? Oh, about 60 years before we seals her. What are they going to do with the farms? Oh, they're going to keep working. Everything is vented. It's the biggest problem the planet faces is all the fuel is on the surface, venting. If you put it in the earth, in the one spot, it'll detonate and burn a large chunk of the planet at some point in the future. The newest power plant in the United Kingdom is that one right here. This is not really, it's not it, but it's what it's going to look like. And this is a new one they're going to build, Sizewell C. And guess what? It's going to be surrounded by Walmarts. No, McDonald's. No. Farms. Yeah, farms, Dana. Yeah, farms. That's what I said, farms. So they hate you. Make no mistake about it. You can say, no, they don't hate me, Dana. But they hate you. You don't build nuclear power plants in farmland because they like you. They like you. They love you. Right? That's Sizewell C. That's the one what it's going to look like. Surrounded by farms. We're surrounded by farms. You're surrounded by farms. And if you get your food from Japan, any of those 14 prefectures, it might look like that. Harvesting food alongside of 1-ton bags of radiation. Not just Fukushima prefecture, it's the whole northern prefectures. That's all the prefectures that was banned in 55 countries. Guess where else you should have banned food? But we didn't, and that's the problem. Now we're stuck with it. We better deal with it, and we better stop saying coal is the problem, because nuclear is obviously the problem. Like, this is not rocket science. The whole planet is covered in plumes. There's a xenon-133 plume. There's a plutonium-239 plume. There's a cesium-137 plume. Another xenon-133 plume. Neptunium-239 plume. Another cesium plume. An ocean that is a full plume. The whole environment is a big plume. So what are you worried about? Are you worried about a coal plant that doesn't pulse energy, doesn't make big massive plumes, can't heat the planet up? Or are you going to be worried about something that actually has those attributes and actually does that? And why is anybody kissing the ring of a corporation known as United Nations? I'm very, very confused about that. What's next? You're going to go to McDonald's and kiss the rings of the people that own McDonald's? Oh, you must be a god. You're the head of the corporation. It's like UN has a leader right now. He's the same thing as Mark Zuckerberg. He's the head of a corporation. They have no authority over you or your country. So why the fuck are you listening to these creatures for? What kind of sickness of the mind? Well, this is day 5 of the Conference of Parties. How did our poll do tonight? You were probably asking, well, hang on, slow down, give me a second. This is not easy, you know. Should it be a crime for United Nations or media to relentlessly, falsely claim nuclear power is carbon-free? 46 votes, with a resounding 98% of people got the question the first time and voted correctly. My hats are off to you. That was Wonderburs. I was in the woods again today, and drone. Before it was pretty windy. I was in the woods, and I couldn't go any further on the quad, and so I was going to send a drone ahead because I didn't want to lug the equipment if there wasn't nothing to see on the other side. So I set the drone up, and the drone. As soon as I went up in the air, the gust of wind flipped it on me. I never had enough torque, and the wind hit it. It broke a leg off it. They're only $20 or something. I got it ordered in the night already. And that's the second leg I broke off that drone in the last couple of years. So I'm going to try to include some of that video tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday or something. Let me say a quick good night to everybody, because we're supposed to get snow tomorrow night, so I've been in the woods a lot this week looking for species. No birds flying whatsoever. Not one. Night to Dana, Nasana, Khaled S, Ted, Tree, Stable, Chad, Port Angeles, Lori Clawthorne. Good night, everybody. Ted, Marjorie. Hi there, Ella. Good night, everybody. Great stuff. James Madigan. Thanks for everybody. I only serve one king. Hi, Laurie. James Lucid. I'm a friend. Einstein tried to warn everybody. Yeah, that's true. So did Oppenheimer. He got beat down for that one, didn't he? Thinker. Long day today. It was in the woods till almost dark. And where I go, you can only crawl at 3 or 4 miles per hour. You can't drive fast at all, right? XOIOX, thank you. Good night, everybody. Just scroll down quickly through the comments. Shane Clark. Quick shout out for those that are here that I can see. Dave Holly, UK. How's everybody else that's watching this tonight and tomorrow in the background? John 2H. You're just joining us. H2ML, Sam, Wingnut. It's a tough gig, man. Let me see what we got here. I almost threw the names. We're down to the most recent names in a minute. Hope everybody has a great night, great day tomorrow. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Yeah, looks like we got everybody. Johnson, C. Brown. You're welcome, Colette. Thank you. Okay, folks, that's a wrap, I guess. Thanks, Ted, Ella, James. Good night, everybody. Laurie, Dave Holly. James Lucid, Dana Masana, James Morgan, Andrian Johnson. God bless everybody. Thanks for everybody. Have a great night, great day tomorrow. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. This is day 5, so day 6 tomorrow. You can see them starting to ramp up the nuclear narrative over the last 48 hours. It's going to become like madness on the last 3 or 4 days. It's going to be all nuclear, man. It's going to be pathetic. We'll be there to stomp them. We'll be there to curb stomp them. Make sure you join us. Hugs for everybody. God bless. Have a great night. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Take care, folks.
Nicht diese